All right. Welcome to our October public meeting for PCAB. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. We had a little bit of technical difficulties on our Facebook with streaming, so I'm pretty sure we're going to be having people kind of joining us along the night. But if you were able to join us from our Facebook crowd, I really do appreciate y'all coming in and being a little bit flexible and joining our Zoom call. And just for some like housekeeping, um, I'm working with two screens, so apologies. But for housekeeping, just if you don't use Zoom that often, we added a little bit more features just to kind of hopefully replicate how we stream in Facebook again if you are like joining from that crowd. So if you can use the raise hand feature to speak, and then if you want to use the Q&A chat to post your questions just so we can monitor questions that are coming in for our guests or anything that we're talking about during the meeting. But beyond that, I'll jump in and start talking about our agenda. So tonight we will have a presentation from the Baltimore Education Research Consortium from Marcy and Francesca. And then we'll get started with talking about like some committee updates for PCAB, our PCAB input survey, any announcements that the board might have, and then like a few that I have to share. Then we'll conclude our evening for tonight. So again, if you coming from our online streaming and Facebook, really appreciate y'all coming in and joining the Zoom call. And besides that, I'll pass it over to Burke.
Okay, thank you so much, PCAB, for having the Baltimore Education Research Consortium here at your October meeting. We are really excited to be here. My name's Frankie Gamper. I'm the executive director of Burke. I'm a former city schools principal and current city schools parent. And I'm here with my colleague, Marcy Davis.
Hi, I'm Marcy Davis. I'm a professor at Johns Hopkins University in the School of Education, and I'm the research director of Burke, the Baltimore Education Research Consortium.
Okay, so I just shared my screen with a couple of slides for us to share with you tonight. Burke is an education research practice partnership. We've been operating since 2006. And what we do as a research practice partnership is connect Baltimore City Public Schools and researchers, education researchers at 11 colleges and universities in the metropolitan area. And we work together on research questions of mutual interest with the ultimate goal for all of us to be to drive better outcomes, better programming, better policies for young people in Baltimore City. And one of the things that we do is produce a couple of annual reports on research questions that City Schools has worked with us to identify as important questions for them. And so we have a report that's going to be coming out very soon about ninth grade success. And we wanted to share some of those results with you tonight in advance of the publication of the report. Let me see if I can get the slideshow to work. Okay, so our report is called Ninth Grade Success. Oh, we just covered some of this information about what Burke is and what we do. This ninth grade success report is going to accompany 3 other annual reports that we have published from year to year. One is our kindergarten success fact book, which looks at how Baltimore City's youngest learners are doing on 3 specific measures of kindergarten readiness. We also have a college success fact book that we have published for several years that tells us where City Schools graduates are going after high school and how they're doing with completing college. And that was something that I really relied on a lot as a high school principal. And then we also published a study a number of years ago called Launching into Adulthood, which showed us where how City Schools graduates were doing in terms of their participation in the workforce whether or not they were earning a family sustaining wage. And we are working right now on an update of that study.
And all those studies can be available if you go to our Burke website, if you want to take a look at them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Marcy, would you voice over the next part for us, if you
Sure.
don't mind?
So I'm a researcher in Johns Hopkins University. About the last 15 years, most of my research has been on dropout prevention. And Baltimore City is also concerned with that. So in 2016, researchers from Burke began examining what we call early warning indicator systems in partnership with Baltimore City Schools. So in early warning indicator systems, it's kind of like a car engine light. Yeah, my daughter's car engine light went on the other day. That's what I'm thinking about it. So you're like, something might be, needs to be checked on. And sometimes it's something small, like a slip in attendance or, a grade going down, or maybe a course failure. So it's something small, but we realize that over time they can be very good indicators for who might drop out of school. So we come up with these systems in order to help schools find the students, identify them, and intervene. So Burke did a lot of research, do a lot of statistics on their data analysis, and found out that one-time promotion to 10th grade without course failures is strongly predictive of on-time high school graduation. So if your ninth grade students or, graduate from ninth grade on time to 10th grade, get promoted and have no failures, then there's a good chance they're going to graduate. So our report will have 3 parts and will be available on the website that I mentioned before. So part 1 will establish a relationship between ninth grade success and on-time high school graduation. I'm actually going to go through a couple of figures from there that I found pretty interesting. I thought parents might find interesting. Part 2 applies to ninth grade success categories, so the most recent cohort of ninth grade students available. So that was 2021 and 2022. And then in the report, we'll eventually also highlight the good work the Baltimore City Public Schools are doing to undertake to target ninth grade success. Sorry. Can you forward that, Frankie? Or okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So why is ninth grade success so important? So pretty much everything I write is saying ninth grade is such a pivotal year. So if you see here, those who promoted to 10th grade with no course failures, that's the top line, are very highly likely to graduate high school on time. But only 65% of the students who are promoted to 10th grade with a course failure graduate on time, and only 20% of the students who are not promoted to 10th grade also graduate on time. So you can see it's pretty highly correlated with these success levels. All right. So some of the question people ask is, do many students in the city have a successful ninth grade year? And yes, most are promoted to 10th grade with no course failures. It's about 46 to 56%, depending on which year you're looking at. So these are ninth graders in 2012, 2013, 2014, 15, and up to 2019, because we can actually look at their graduation rates. But only 18% are not promoted to the 10th grade on time. So is ninth grade attendance important? So we know there is an issue with attendance in pretty much the entire US. Is something a lot of researchers, a lot of educators are talking about, like how do we get students to attend and how do we tell them how important attendance is? So this is in Baltimore City. Attendance and promotion to 10th grade is very highly related. So for the students, and this is the same group that made up at the last couple of figures, Baltimore City High School students. Students who have, as you can see, students who have 18 to 29 days of absence, only 45% are likely to be promoted to 10th grade with no failures. That goes down to 22% if they have 30 to 59 absences. 60 plus is only 2.6. So failures, absences cause them to miss coursework, which then cause them to fail courses, which then makes it very difficult to catch up and graduate on time. But some do it, as you can see, even some of the students who were absent, 2.6%, but it's not very high percent. Okay, tricky. All right. Obviously, GPA is needed. So the higher the GPA, most likely you're going to have a good promotion rate to 10th grade. And so the students who were promoted to 10th grade with no course failures mostly had a GPA of around 2.5. I mean, it shifted year to year. It says, we can't see your slides. Are you able to share them? I see them.
Yeah,
I'm not
I can see them as well. I'm not really sure why they can't see it, but I can see it. I can see that you guys are sharing it.
okay.
They may be on their phone, so they
Okay.
might have to like slide or something like that.
Maybe we can set them later or something. We'll see. Okay. Um, Students promoted with at least one course failure, that was a setting, sorry, um, had a GPA of around 1.3. And then students not promoted to 10th grade on time had a GPA of around 0.5. So this isn't surprising, GPA related to their success in 9th grade. All right. So some of the questions we get asked are students in special education successful in 9th grade? And this figure shows that special education students, there were about 16% of the 2021-22 cohort that's here. This is the most latest cohort. Were promoted to 10th grade on time more often than not. And they were promoted with and without course failures at about 87%, which is pretty high of the rate of their peers in the cohort. So if you look at the column on the left is the no for special education status, and the right is yes for special education status. And you can see that there's still a majority in the top bars. So in the next slide, are English language learners successful in 9th grade? And the district's English learners who made up approximately 11% of the latest cohort that we have the data for, 95 as likely as their peers to promote on time to 10th grade. And you can see those bars are pretty similar on yes or no for English learner status. All right. Also, parents want to know, what classes are students failing? Like, does this matter? But overall, it seems that 9th grade course failures are not dependent about a course subject. So as you can see on the left, those who are not promoted to 10th grade, I mean, it was highest maybe in science, 73.7, but it's not too far away from English, which was 71.1 percentage failing a subject area. The same thing for on-time promotion 10th grade with at least one course failure. They all failed pretty similar across those 4 subjects. So it's not like a lot of people will say, oh, math is doing it. Math is holding everyone back. But these statistics show that there are failures across these 4 subject areas. All right. So the main findings, a majority of 9th grade students in Baltimore City have consistently earned promotion to 10th grade without any course failures. Attendance is a strong predictor of 9th grade success, and obviously GPA is also a strong predictor of 9th grade success. So we're hoping that Baltimore City can use some of these statistics, and we're going to be updating this every year. And there's a lot more figures and excitement to pour through once we get this up on our website, if you want to take a look.
Right, and I put a link in the chat for signing up for our Burke e-newsletter so that you can be alerted when the report has been published. It's right now it's in pre-production, but we'll be releasing it very soon. So it's usually a quarterly e-newsletter, so it'll only hit your inbox 4 times a year, but then occasionally we'll have announcements for when research is published. So a new feature of the ninth grade report that's new for Burke is to try to take some of these findings and then pose some questions for considerations for different stakeholder groups. And so we were thinking about as parents or caregivers, what might we be asking ourselves while we're looking at this information? And so we were thinking, which firstly, which of these ninth grade success categories do we think would best describe our ninth grade students if we have students who are in ninth grade this year? Are they in the on track to pass everything? Are they potentially needing support because they might be failing one course? Or might they need support because they could be on track to fail more than one course? Another question for families and caregivers to consider is what resources your school offers for ninth grade students and their families. And if you needed to ask for help or for resources, would you know where to go if you needed to ask for them? And then for older high school students and their families, so folks who have already made it through that ninth grade transition point, what was it that helped them make a successful start to high school? And are there lessons that could be learned for schools, for families, for administrators that we could replicate for other classes? One of the really exciting features of this report for Burke is that we had an opportunity to share an earlier draft of this report with about 15 students, 15 current city school students. So they were able to review the information and then some of the graphs to tell us if we had accurately represented from their perspective themselves and their peers. And so they were able to highlight for us some of the things that they remembered from their ninth grade year that really helped them be successful. And one theme that really came out of those discussions was the significance of peer mentoring. So having a student who had already finished the ninth grade who could then be a guide for younger students and help them be successful. So that takes us to the end of our presentation, but we would love to hear any questions that you have or any feedback on the report or the presentation.
I think we have one question. Dante, Ryan? Yep.
Yes, good evening. How's it going? Obviously, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys probably have a ton of data that you can kind of comb through. One of the things I'm kind of interested in, is, I know that GPA is a, kind of like an indicator, but I'm curious to know if it could be further, kind of like discriminated, right? Like, if a student, maybe they might have failed a class, but in the rest of their classes, they might have been doing really well, but they failed this one class, whatever reason. I'm just interested to see, or perhaps have you guys done any analysis to kind of gauge if there's a sweet spot with a GPA, right?
Mm.
Meaning that, I think you guys showed that, at least if they have at least a 2.5. But I'm just curious to know, when you compare it across other GPAs, 2.7s, 2.8s, and so
Mm.
forth, just kind of get an idea. Okay, well, yeah, this seems to be like the sweet spot where, as long as a freshman can kind of keep their GPA above here, then they should be pretty much in good shape. And then the second part is really taking the data. I'm not sure if you guys track students across all 4 years of high school, but then kind of figure out, hey, where that freshman year GPA, how that impacts their overall GPA from high school. And so one of the reasons why I say that is because, so, my company, through the Ryan Institute, one of the things I always preach to students, because a lot of times parents come to me for SAT prep, but I'm telling them, like, listen, for your freshmen, all I want them to do is focus on GPA. Don't focus on SAT prep, right? Just focus on GPA because, if they can kind of set that freshman year GPA kind of sets that tone for the rest of the high school year. And I'm just, like I said, I know you guys have a lot of data. I'm not sure how far you track students, but I'll be interested to kind of see, one, if there's a sweet spot with the GPA as far as, once students, or if you see a freshman with a GPA below or even if it's like ranked, right? You know what I'm saying? If it, I'm just interested to see what that looks like, and then also kind of like forecasting. Hey, if your student has a freshman GPA of this, then chances are they're going to have a cumulative GPA that they're going to be submitting to colleges around this, right? And so it helps. I think it just helps parents and students really understand. Like, listen, freshman year, I get it. You guys are, adjusting from 8th grade, but it's important that you try to do really well freshman year. And I think a lot of times parents and students don't understand that, and it hurts them in the long run.
Yeah, so I mean, it's highly correlated. So the higher your GPA, the more likely you're going to graduate, to be promoted to 10th grade. I'm not sure if there's a sweet spot technically for GPA, but the sweet spot is don't fail any classes. Even if you have a lower GPA in your classes, as long as you don't fail the course, there's a good chance you're going to graduate, because it's that whole making up the course that gets them behind. So even gym or, some other art, like if they fail them, it's the same. Well, it's about the same as failing any other course. We thought, well, maybe it's math or English, so studies and all that make more of a difference. But even failing some of those other courses also was highly related to not graduating on time. So we can definitely add to our tracker, kind of like how we did with the absences, where we had, levels of absences, and then with that we can add a figure similar to that to show more of that relationship. I think would be a good addition to that. But yeah, try to get your 9th graders not to fail anything, basically, because it puts it up. Frankie?
Oh, I was agreeing that they have to pass everything. But we have a great question in the chat about the sending middle schools of the students and whether or not the data reflects that. And I think that for this particular report, the closest that we get to in this report is another figure that we didn't show here, but that disaggregates this data by the high school type that the students go to. So we do have another graph in the final report when it's published that will show how these trends year over year of on-time promotion and then the relationship to high school completion varies, whether the student is going to one of the criteria-based high schools versus a traditional high school versus a charter high school versus a CTE high school, because there can be wide variety in the high school type and how those numbers turn out. But we are doing some really interesting middle school work with the district that Marcy has been leading.
Yeah, so
on the Burke side.
Yeah, so we've been looking at middle school indicators: attendance, behavior, course performance. Mainly attendance and course performance, because we realize when we take those two into account, behavior doesn't add anything extra to what those two already suggest. So in looking at attendance and course performance, we can say, all right, middle school GPA and attendance together, we have like a 6-quadrant thing, and the highest GPA and highest attendance, it's like 85% going to graduate. But then the more, even the middle, even those who are attending and maybe not performing as well, it goes down in the chances of them being promoted to 10th grade on time. So we are looking at some of those predictors. Might be added eventually to this report, but right now we're using those predictors to create an early warning system for middle schools. It was piloted in 4 schools this year, and it's going to be in another 10. Looking at those indicators and coming up with interventions for students who look like they're slipping even in middle school, so that we can set them up for really good 9th grade, because we see how important 9th grade is. So if we can get them on the track of attending and performing and getting their work done, it's going to make 9th grade so much easier.
Yeah. So I think we might be about at time, if I'm correct. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. Well, we hopefully, if you would like to sign up for our email, um, if you'd like to sign up for our email list, I put it in the chat. But for folks who might be watching on Facebook, you can also check out our website. I think if you just Google BERC, BERC, or Baltimore Education Research Consortium, baltimore-berc.org, you can find us, and we'll be releasing the report very soon once we have finished all of the design and production. And again, we're so thankful to PCAB for having us this evening so that we could workshop some of these findings with you.
Thank you for joining us. And if y'all are able to share your slides with us so we can add it to ours, and we post our slides on our website so it can be shared with the public. So thank you again. And I'm going to move right along. So again, that was the Baltimore Education Research Consortium. And I'm going to move on. So our next agenda item is just committee updates. So I'm going to start off with just kind of laying an overview, again, for those guests who are joining us, of what the purpose of our committees are and what are those committees, and then share a few updates that PCAB has to share about, the work that we're doing so far with our committees for this school year. So the purpose of our standing committees is just to provide like advice and recommendations to PCAB on topics related to teaching and learning, school budgets, family and community engagement, policy, communications, and et cetera, because there might be other, opportunities to share whatever information that you have that can help us make sure that we're best servicing parents and families. And so a little bit more details about the standing committees is just that, our board members serve as chairs, and committees are comprised of both PCAB board members as well as members of the community. For non-PCAB board members, I do want to share that committee service doesn't equate to PCAB board membership. It's just as an advisory role within that committee, again, to help us, accomplish the goal of making sure that we're sharing as much information as possible with our parents and families related to the topics that I mentioned. So we have 5 standing committees, and those are, again, the Budget Committee, Communications, Family Community Engagement, Policy, and Teaching and Learning. If needed or as needed, we are able to create, special ad hoc committees to address the needs of parents and families. So, for example, like we have a charter advisory board that helps service our, parents and families in the charter network. And I want to stress again, if it's a big need that we see, then we're happy to, maybe address, new initiatives that we can add to the 5, pillars I would say that we're focused on. So one, for example, that kind of came to my head as I was thinking about this was, it'd be nice to have a committee that's focused around school safety. I think that's a big thing, a big topic that I know that a lot of parents and families might want some input on. And so when I was thinking about this, and we were able to, create other ad hoc, communities or committees, sorry, then that was kind of first thing that came to my head. So again, we have these 5 standing committees, and then as needed, let us know, and then we can see how we can best service parents and families. And so what I'm going to do now is introduce you to the chairs of each committee. I'm going to give a little blurb about what the committee is. And what I'm asking for our chairs to do is if you could just briefly introduce yourself and maybe give 1 or 2 things that you just hope to accomplish as chairs, if you can. So I'll start off with the budget committee. The budget committee supports opportunities for public discussion regarding both Baltimore City Public Schools district budget and individual school budgets. And for this school year, our chair of that committee is our treasurer, Malik Parker. So Malik, if you want to, introduce yourself and maybe, one or two things about just what you hope to accomplish as chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, so my name is Malik, I'm the treasurer for PCAB, and I'm hoping to keep y'all up to date with what is happening in the city and be transparent on things that's related to budget that I can find out in the district or within our school communities. And I invite anyone and everyone who is interested in serving on the board with the budget committee. Anything else?
Great, thank you. Okay, so next is communications committee, and myself, Shartae, and Jason Green will be kind of co-chairing the communications committee. Just serves to promote PCAB events, initiatives on our website and through our social media channels, and then we'll be assisted by our admin Kayla Jones, and hoping that we can just continue to promote our events and initiatives, and hoping to kind of spread our reach. That's kind of one of the things that we've been talking about a lot, is how can we get the word out a little bit more. And then on top of that, like I was kind of saying as we started the meeting, we was having a little bit of trouble with getting our streaming up and running, and so that's something that we're actively trying to address. But again, as far as like communications goes, are one of, I know I could, Jason would agree when I say this, but we're hoping to really extend our reach as far as PCAB and its communication channels go. So more to come with that. And if you are somebody who real good at social media, or have a friend of a friend who's real good at social media and want to help us with this initiative and in the committee, please don't hesitate to reach out, because we're actively looking for people who can, again, help us with this. So, and I am going to transition to family and community engagement. And so our family and community engagement committee works to increase engagement of families and community members with PCAB, the school, and the district. And our chair for this year for this committee is Trinae Phillips Davis. Is Trinae, has she joined us today? I can't see the attendees.
No, it doesn't look like she's here. Not at this moment.
Okay, so I spoke to Trinae a little bit on the side, so I can kind of give a little bit of blurb of some interest that she has about chairing this committee. So one thing that I talked to her about, she has an interest in sharing resources and establishing PTOs. She's very involved in her children's schools as far as PTOs go, and then also the work that she does in the city is around this. And so I know that when it comes to providing parents and families with the tools that they need to know how to be engaged in their school communities, I know that that's something that Trinae is looking forward to from speaking with her. So again, if this is a committee that you are like, man, I really want to be involved in family community engagement, then definitely please reach out. And I'll share a little bit later on what it looks like to, let us know that you're interested in the committee. But again, this is family community engagement. And the next one is a policy committee. So the policy committee fights for equity and accountability for Baltimore City Public Schools, in both its policy and then how they're implemented. And so our chair for the policy committee is Charlene Faison. And Charlene, if you're able to, I think she was on, I'm not sure if she's still
I'm
on.
here.
Okay, so you just able to introduce yourself, maybe one or two things about, what you hope to accomplish as chair of the committee.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm one of those that had a communication issue logging in. I'm in a car out here at Tulsa with my son, but I do appreciate everyone putting faith in me to be the chair of this committee. And what I hope to do is actually attend the school board meetings, gain information, get to know those policy committee members at the school board level, and bring back any information and suggestions back to PCAB and to the community that we can share information to see what type of policies are being implemented, how to make sure that we get a voice in those policies. You know, if there's surveys or anything, making sure that information gets out via the PCAB website so that others can weigh in on different policies that are being suggested and implementing for our students.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And again, that was the policy committee. And then last but not least will be the teaching and learning committee. So a little bit about that committee. It just provides families with educational opportunities to ensure equitable access to academic data and strategies to support student achievement. And for this year, our chair for the teaching and learning committee is Dr. Dante Ryan. So Dante, if you want to just share a little bit about introduce yourself, and then one or two things about what you hope to accomplish as chair.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. So one of the main things I wanted to accomplish in this position was making sure, basically aligned with what the communications committee was doing, which is really kind of increasing our reach. I think I've been trying to get a lot of people to understand that PCAB is an excellent resource to understand what's going on in Baltimore City Public Schools, and so there are quite a few people that have a lot of ideas when it comes to what's happening in schools as far as what the students are learning and their curriculum and things of that nature. And so, I really want to try to see if we can get those people together, and then hopefully we can kind of pass some ideas to the board and to the district to implement at various levels. So my main goal is really try to recruit other people to serve on the committee, and then really kind of set up a think tank, so to speak, to to kind of maybe share some other ideas that the district may or may not be thinking about.
All right. Oh, excuse me. All right. Thank you so much. And as far as next steps, so what does the commitment look like with joining the committee? So a little bit of information: the committee meetings occur monthly outside of PCAB public meetings, and committee chairs will use this space at our public meetings and also our private meetings to report out on any information and topics that were discussed in committee meetings. And then when applicable, we just ask that our chairs are able to attend school board committee meetings that align with their committee's main topics. So we talked about this in our private meeting, but I know that there's two open committees within the school board that directly aligns with PCAB. But again, if things come up, then we'll just hopefully be able to share with our chairs, so we'll be able to share with our greater community in that way. And then just the last thing, as far as commitment goes, we're looking to encourage people to bring ideas to PCAB about how we can best support parents and families. So anything that might pop up in your individual school community that you feel like should be something that we're having a greater discussion with our greater community, then that's something that we will hope that in these committees that you're able to bring to our attention. And the last thing I just wanted to share about committee meetings, this is more for the school board commissioners. So some of the current school board committee meetings are they have a policy committee, and they meet every third Tuesday of the month from 4 to 5:30. They have a teaching and learning committee, and then that meets first Tuesday of the month from 3:30 to 5:30. They also have two other committees: the safety and wholeness, that meets every third Thursday, and then they have an operations committee that meets every third Tuesday. And for more information on the school board and their committee meetings, here's their website at the bottom of this slideshow, which is baltimorecity.org/page/board-committee. So again, this is for the school board, but we also thought it was important to share this information as well, just in case you want to join some of these open meetings that they have. And then lastly, as far as committee goes, this is just a call to action. I mean, we share with you what some of our goals were and then what we're looking for, and we're hoping that you feel it in your hearts to get involved. And so we have a QR code on the screen, but also you can go to tinyurl.com/join a PCAB committee, and there will be a survey that you can complete, just letting us know what committee you are looking to be a part of. And that is information that we will share with our chairs, who will, begin to reach out and start scheduling what that looks like as far as committees go. The other thing I'll add about committees is that, again, ideas, recommendations. So if you want to share, recommendations for special, committees, if you have some general suggestions, questions, concerns about your school community, etc., we do have a PCAB public input survey that is currently live, and that Malik will give us some more information about. I see a couple of questions in the slot in the chat. Oh, thank you. See, you shared the link. Appreciate that. So I'm gonna actually pass it over to Malik now, who's going to talk to us about the PCAB public input survey.
All right. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Hopefully y'all having a good night. We almost finished with this. Let me pull it up so I can. Okay. Hold on. I'm so sorry. Thought I had it. Yes. Okay. So this is for Dr. Sanalise. How you pronounce her name? Dr. S. So we
Dr.
have
Santalisis.
say it again.
Dr. Santalisis.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this form is to ask questions that she can answer. It goes about a lot of topics, so career and college readiness program. So that sounds really good. Mental health and wellness, parent and community engagement policy, and all that good stuff. So I encourage everyone to scan the QR code. I can put the link to the Google form in the chat. Look it over. It will be really nice for everyone to have an input in it, because yet again, this is someone that runs the school system, and we are advocates for y'all to we're your advocates also. So yeah, so we're gonna have this is for uh December 19th, 2024. So she'll be at this meeting answering these questions also. So if I left anything out, I hope I didn't. I shouldn't have. But yeah.
All right, I just wanted to add a few details. So our public input survey is like serving in two purposes. So one, it has a spot at the end just for you to ask questions for Dr. S. Again, as Malik shared in our fall 24 public meeting with her, which would be December 19th. But it's also serving as us to hear from you on what you want us to bring in our public space and any additional programming for you all. So it serves two purposes. One, for us to hear from you on what you want from the school system. Again, questions, concerns about your community. And then also, again, like factoring in if you have any questions for Dr. S that we can accumulate. And we're hoping to have all of those questions specific to when Dr. S is meeting with us by November 22nd. So this form will stay open, but the deadline for submitting questions for Dr. S will be November 22nd. So I just want to mention that part. Thank you, Malik. And then one more thing. Hold on. Gotta go back to the slide. Can everyone? Yes.
There was one question in the chat. It said, when should we expect to hear back based on the survey? Will we be reaching out individually or providing updates through our public meetings based on the responses in the surveys?
For which survey?
I believe it's
for the
input survey. Is that what you're referring to, John? Correct.
So that's something that we gotta talk about, because I know we definitely want to hopefully share out some of the as far as like just what input we got from the public around what we want to present, like what they need from us as far as PCAB goes. And that's something that maybe we can talk about, maybe sharing in our next public meeting. But we're also kind of using the resources to bring some programming in, right? So we had like Bert come in, for example, today, and we hoping to use the public input survey to help inform the programming that we're providing to parents and families in our public input meeting. But as far as the question specific to Dr. S, you can expect on December 19th at our meeting with her that that would be when you'll get, your questions answered when you submit questions about that. Oh, and I see your hand raised. If you want to add anything else, go ahead.
Yeah, I completed both surveys. I think there was more than one, right? And so I completed both of them. So you partially answered the one. If I'm interested in participating, and you've talked about putting in what committees we're interested in, then when will those decisions be made, and when will we find out about them? And then separately for Dr. Santelises, how do we know what questions were submitted? Is there going to be something shared back before she shows up, or how's that going to work?
So as far as committees go, like you'll hear, probably within the next 2 weeks, we have our private meeting in the next 2 weeks, and then that's when we'll beforehand share with our chairs what individuals are interested in joining their committees, and then in November is when we'll get started with actually meeting with our committee. So as far as committees go, you can expect that within the next month. As far as the question specific for Dr. S, I think that that's something that we probably have to talk to a board about on how we wish to share that information to the public, and if we'll share those questions that we selected of the list of questions that we get prior to. So unfortunately, I don't have a answer for when, but I'll just say that that's something that hopefully as a board we can talk about if we want to share those lists of questions out to the public. I don't see why not, but again, that's something that I hope that as a board we'll be able to talk about and then share more information in the future.
Okay. And in terms of the criteria, or who, how do we know what is the process for selecting the participants in the committees? I mean, is it based on something, or is it just, is it just subjective? Like, how do you know who's selected, not selected? If you're not selected, do you get a notification? Is this the first time y'all have done it? I mean, it just raises more questions for me.
Sure. Yeah, this isn't the first time that PCAB has had committees, but we're just hoping to kind of restart something that seemed to not necessarily have been going on as consistent, I'll say. And so as far as like selection processes, like it's not a job interview. So if you're interested and you want to be a part of a committee, you can be a part of a committee. But again, as far as like logistics and how people will be reaching out, like that's up to chairs. And I will hope that we can continue to share more information when we, meet as a board with you, so that you'll have, more insight on what it looks like. But I hope I was able to at least share some information on what the commitment looks like. But as far as selection. Like, don't think, it's not a job interview. We hope to get your input because your voice is valuable. So,
Thank you.
yep. There's anything else, I'm gonna move on. Can everyone still see my screen? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So announcements. So just some upcoming dates I wanted to share, and then I'm gonna open the floor up if any, anybody, PCAB board members, anyone else on the call want to share, any announcements that maybe parents and our community members can benefit from knowing about. But so in terms of upcoming dates, October 19th, which is this Saturday, we'll have PCAB board members tabling at the Special Education Resource Fair from 10 to 3. And then there's 2 events on October 22nd, which I believe is next Tuesday, maybe. And the first one is just City Schools School Commissioners Public Board meeting, which is at 5:30. And then Baltimore Design School is going to have a dine and discuss event. And both of those events again is on October 22nd. You can expect to hear from us again as far as this space goes, November 21st, which will be our PCAB public board meeting in November. And then again, our PCAB's fall 24 public board meeting with Dr. S is on December 19th. And then I just want to open the floor up for, if any board members or anything had any other announcements to share before we adjourn for the evening. You go ahead, Dante.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. So just an announcement. This is on December 7th at Morgan State University in the Hill Field House. One of our organizations that we partner with, they will be doing a college fair. So that's December 7th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's completely free to register. And you want to go to mtmcollegetours.org. I'll send the flyer to PCAB so that they could, distribute it out. But yeah, so that's something that I think, all students can benefit. So even if they're not in high school, just kind of getting them exposed to some of these colleges early, maybe start having those conversations with families. Now, I think that would be really helpful.
Anybody else? All right, well, if there isn't anything else, I just want to thank you all for joining us this evening. Again, if you are coming from our Facebook community, I really appreciate the flexibility. Sorry, I see something in the chat. Oh, yes, thank you. So again, I really appreciate the flexibility. Hopefully we can, get the streaming service situation taken care of well before our, November public meeting. But just to stay informed about PCAB, you can find out more information about PCAB and visit our website at pcabbaltimore.org. Again, get involved, join the committee. Please, we want to hear from you. Again, that website is just tinyurl.com/join the PCAB committee. You can expect in November to hear back around how we're going to move forward with our committees. And again, stay connected with us: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all of the socials. And we hope that you can join us in November for our next public meeting. So I'll stop recording. And thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Hey, Shante, so real quick, regarding
Yeah.
getting getting access or being able to attend the school board committee meetings. Is that something that you all will kind of coordinate for us, or should I go ahead and just be a little bit more proactive and reach out to the school board and figure out, hey, because I see that teaching and learning, I see the schedule, but what I don't
Yeah.
know is if the meetings are in person, if they're virtual, and whatever the case is, and where it's either located or what link can I join. So is that something that I should just be proactive about, or should I allow the board, that PCAB board, kind of serve as our kind of like spokespeople until, and then get all the information? Because I'm wondering, maybe you guys can get all the information at once and then distribute to our
Yeah.
committee. You think that'd be the, so I should just kind of
Yeah.
hold off?
Yeah, I think that's something that we definitely going to do because we meet with like the executive board meet with the school board next week. I think it's on Wednesday or something. And
Okay, cool.
so this is something that we could definitely bring up to them. Here we going to give, it's kind of like our quarterly report. So we want to share what we've done so far in PCAB
Yep.
for this school year, and
Mhm.
then we're going to share like our new chairs. And so we'll use that space too to make sure that we're asking more information about their open, board committee meetings and what that look like and anything else. So that yeah, that's definitely something that we could talk to them about because I think we do need some information to share with
Yeah.
everybody before we get started. So
Yeah, because I know, at least for teaching and learning, I know they're meeting, obviously it's the first Tuesday, so that's like November 3rd, right? So I just want to make sure that I have
yeah,
that blocked off on my calendar, and if I need to um be there in person, I want to make sure I'm setting that time, because so during the day I do my engineering, contracts during the day, and so I want to make sure I
okay,
carve that out. But yeah, okay. So I just stand by, wait for you all to kind of give us some further guidance on how to approach that. And then the last thing, I'm not sure if I
yeah,
ever asked you this before. Are you an SGRO?
I am.
Oh, okay. My wife is a Sigma Gamma Rho. That's actually how we met. I actually met my wife when she was pledging Sigma Gamma Rho at Morgan. Yeah,
Oh,
yep,
that's what's up. Okay,
yeah, yep,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
cool.
So
Oh,
are you?
you in good company then.
Yeah. So are you active?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Which chapter are you active with?
So I'm not chapter in the active. I'm not sorry active in
Okay.
the chapter,
So
but
like
I'm
like
active. I'm
general membership.
financial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I listen. If it's okay with you, I'm going to send, because so check this out. So my wife, she's like super Sigma. So my wife my sister-in-law is Sigma Gamma Rho from Cal State in Sacramento.
Okay.
My youngest
Yeah.
sister, played Sigma Gamma Rho at Morgan when she was at Morgan. My niece and my daughter were rowers. All right.
Oh wow. Okay.
My
Okay.
niece is at Morgan currently.